All right, big fella, we back today with no four pointers. Fun weekend, man. First two games, Boston showed up, did what they supposed to do. Dallas is down 0-2. How have you seen some of the guys perform? Some of the guys have stepped up. I know Jaylen Brown's been putting in work. Luka been doing his thing. Last night, Tatum was, all around game. Shooting might not be going in, but all around game. Some of the other guys, Jrue Holiday stepped up. Kyrie is picking his spots, but what do you see so far in these first two games?
Well, what we expected. I mean, we see a team that obviously it's a reason why the Celtics was the number one team in the NBA, and you see a 6 seed. And not to take anything away from Dallas, what they've been able to accomplish to be in the finals right now, but you're looking at a team that's much deeper than the Dallas Mavericks and the Boston Celtics. They're not just relying on two guys to have to perform night in and night out for them to have an opportunity to win. You're looking at a team that's complete. First game, Porzingis was terrific. Obviously, he played great. You look at Holiday, the way he contributed. And then, obviously, and it allows, if you look at the numbers, it allows for Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum not to necessarily have great games. Jayson Tatum still was able to do other things on the floor, rebounding and assisting. He's not shooting the basketball well this series, but because of the depth of the Boston Celtics, they're able to get contributions from everybody else. That's what the difference at in this series, where the Dallas Mavericks have to have Kyrie and Luka play great for them to have an opportunity to win. And you're looking at the depth of the Celtics really take its toll right now. That's why they up 2-0.
So how big has Jaylen Brown been? I mean, you've seen him. He's playing an all-around game. Not only is he scoring, but defense, blocking shots, communicating, getting his team in order. I mean, I see a hunger out there. How big has Jaylen been so far?
Jaylen's been solid. They need him to be solid, obviously, but he's been solid. Obviously, taking the bulk of guarding Luka, and Luka's playing great, but Luka also had 8 turnovers. And you got to consider, hopefully that's, Jaylen plays a part in that as far as the win down process. But to me, with the Celtics, it's all about the whole team. It's not just about how good Jaylen Brown's playing. I think if you had to pick an MVP, it'd be really tough to pick out the 2 games on who's been the best player for the Celtics. You're seeing their depth really wear on the Dallas Mavericks. You're seeing them being able to. I think Porzingis has been terrific. I think having him back on the floor, him being able to space the floor, Derek White being able to make shots in clutch moments, being able to guard certain defenders. Holiday has been great. So it's a collective group right now. I don't think it's about one individual guy for the Celtics. It's about the team as a whole and showing why they had the best record in the league.
Let's touch on Jrue Holiday. I mean, he was a pickup that they had. Seems to be a very key, one of the best pickups, in the offseason. How big has Jrue Holiday been?
Oh, it's been huge because obviously, one, his defensive ability, but his experience. Talking about a guy who's the NBA champion, and he allows Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum to be, guys to be aggressive on the offensive end. He doesn't complain about shots. He's going to continue to play. If you need him to guard Luka, to Kyrie, he can guard both of those guys. Just his versatility mixes so well with those 2 guys. And I think that's where it stands out at. He's not afraid to take a big shot. He's been an all-star in this league. He's an Olympian. I mean, he's been there before. He's their X factor. And when he plays well, that gives them an even added advantage over most teams.
Now, Dallas going back home, down 0-2. First game blowout. This game was a little closer, but still down 0-2. When you won your championship with Miami, you guys were down 0-2 against Dallas. What can these guys do to kind of, regroup and get back into the series?
Well, it's a good, usually at home in the playoffs, it's about the role players. And if these role players can step up for them and play better, obviously we know Kyrie hasn't been great. Maybe a little home cooking will help him. We know it was tough on him in Boston, obviously going back there and the fans giving him a tough time and really being, making it really hard for him to perform there on and off the court. Making it really uncomfortable for him. But you hope some other guys can step up. You need the Daniel Gafford in the middle to play big and be a presence in the inside. Also, you want somebody else to step up, whether that's P.J. Washington, to give you some scoring, to give you another guy that has one of those big moments, one of those big games. I think that's what Dallas is looking for. I mean, Luka's putting up great numbers. Like I said, we know Kyrie's been down, but he needs somebody else to step up and have one of those moments, one of those games, if they plan on beating the Celtics.
What'd you guys do when you were down 0-2 in your series, your championship series? What'd you guys do to turn it around? What was that turning point when y'all got back home and it was, what was the turning point?
Well, it's a mindset you're going. And if I'm the Mavericks, I'm thinking, okay, they took care of home. Now it's time for us to take care of our home. For us, me personally, when we was going through it, we was down 0-2. The best thing for me and for us, I think, was Shaq, a guy who I've been there before. He was an NBA champion. He did not waver at all. Also, the coach, Pat Riley, another guy who's been there, had won championships. So we had some experience in the locker room, guys to kind of help us and talk us through. And, and just having Shaq there, stay the course, continue to do what you've been doing. Don't get discouraged because we're down 0-2. I think that's what's important. I think what the Mavs have to do is look at film, see what was successful for them in those first two games, and try to duplicate that. But also, it's still going to be another guy. You need somebody else to have one of those games, one of those moments to play well. And if they don't get that, it's going to be very difficult for Luka and Kyrie to get it done because the Celtics are a more balanced team. So if Jayson Tatum doesn't shoot well, it was 6 for 22. But you got other guys, Holiday, White, you got other guys that steps up and have moments. So it's all about moments and guys taking advantage of the opportunity. They haven't talked about it, but I think they need scoring. I think a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr. probably needs to they need to play a guy like that. This is a guy for the last couple of years who's been a big part of your offense, a big part of your scoring, and they're not playing him for whatever reason. He's got out the rotation. That may be a guy you look at to try to get some help out there on the offensive end because of Kyrie's ability, because Kyrie's been struggling. So it's about adjustments. Jason Kidd's going to have to tweak a little bit and certain things. Just being at home is not just going to beat the Celtics.
Now with Kyrie, I guess we were coming off that Minnesota series where he was just dominating, doing whatever he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
This series has been a little more challenging. He has his moments and his spots where he's dominating, but what do you feel some of the things that's kind of deterring him right now? Is it the different people that Boston can run at him? Is it the defense they're playing? What's kind of Kyrie's struggle right now?
I think it's a combination of all those things. I think obviously the Celtics have multiple defenders and great defenders to put on. You're talking about Holiday, one of the league's best defenders, Derek White. So they got multiple guys they can put on them. But I think also it's about opportunities. I think they have to figure out Jason Kidd maybe having Kyrie on the floor. And I know it's the finals and you want to keep your guys on the floor 40 minutes. Maybe playing a stretch of 4 to 6 minutes where Kyrie's the main focal point in the offensive end. He has the ball in his hands. You try to get him off in that capacity. It can't just be Luka, steady diet of Luka and everybody playing off Luka. That's going to be really tough to do. So I think, especially as a superstar and a player, one thing you want is opportunities. And I'm not saying he's getting shorter out of timber, but you want opportunities to be able to get yourself going. So I think that's something Jason Kidd has to figure out, whether it's starting the game off and featuring Kyrie on the offensive end to see if you can get him going. Playing him 4 or 5 minute stretches without Luka on the floor where he's the main focal point on the offensive end. Kyrie usually flourishes in that moment too as well. So it'll be different ways they can get it going. And being back at home, I think, without people booing at you and, insulting you and doing all these different things helps out a lot too.
Now I want to touch on Tatum. He's getting a lot of flags still. I mean, they're up 2-0 in the series, going into Dallas with the lead, 2 games to none lead in the series. He's struggling a little bit offensively, but he's doing other things. He has assists. He's moving the ball. He's playing defense in certain instances. Why is he getting so much criticism? And is this criticism warranted? Again, I mean, they're up 2-0. He's not having to dominate right now. He's doing other things to impact the game. Why do you think he's getting so much criticism?
Well, to me, I think he's dominating. I think everybody considers you, if you don't score 25, 30, 35 points, that you're not impacting the game. He's impacting the game at a very, very high level, and they're winning. You hope he has that game, one of those games, a 40-point game, 35-point game. That still can happen. That can happen, and it may happen on the road. But as long as they're winning and he's contributing, I think that's the most important thing. It's not about every night going in there having numbers and when you get to the finals, it's about doing whatever it takes to win an NBA championship. Whatever it takes. He's been there before. He understands the moment. And I think what's great about this is that what you just said, we're not talking about him not doing anything. He's filling up the stat sheet. That means he's still playing hard. He's still engaged. He's not worrying about if his shots falling. That means he's still doing all the little things to help his team win. So it speaks even more value to me that he's playing well. But the Celtics are up 2-0 because of Holiday having a big game. Kristaps Porzingis, those additions to their team they added from the first time when they were in the finals. Well, Jaylen and Jayson had to do everything almost for them to win. You don't have to do that now. When you win 60, 64 games and you get those type of pieces, you don't necessarily have to have that monster game for you guys to win. I think he will have one. We even may have two if it's needed. But they're up 2-0. You got to feel good if you're Jayson Tatum and the Boston Celtics.
All right, so far, so 2 games into the series. I know it's early, and I know a lot can change. Again, you guys were down 0-2, went back, changed the whole series. But if you were going to pick right now, who would you say is leading in the MVP, category? Again, Boston's winning, so on Boston, who you see leading right now?
That's tough because you've had 2 games where I think Holiday game yesterday was huge. Kristaps Porzingis game was there. I just think if you just want to look at sure numbers and talent, I mean, it's going to be a toss-up between Jayson and Jaylen. Probably Jaylen having the upper hand because he's been a little bit more consistent in the 2 games. And he's also asking him to guard Luka, which is very difficult to do. But Luka had 8 turnovers too yesterday. So if you're able to get a superstar to have 8 turnovers, and I'm sure all of that wasn't created by Jaylen, but he's got the bulk of the assignment. So those are things that, I mean, this after 2 games, it's hard to say because they've done it by committee. And so many guys have contributed so early. But it remains to be seen. It's kind of one of those weird years. I think if we want to think back to when Andre Iguodala won Finals MVP, where the superstars were good, but they wasn't great. So it was hard to pick one of them. And Andre Iguodala was kind of the X factor and a difference maker. I think that's what you're kind of looking at in this series so far with the Celtics. It's kind of hard to pick one guy out because every guy's contributed. I think, like I said, Porzingis the game 1, Holiday yesterday. So you never know what's going to happen. So we got to play this series out to see who's going to be up for that award.
Got it. Okay. I want to shift. Today, big news this morning is with the Lakers. The Lakers is always going to dominate the news cycle. Another coaching issue. This time, Danny Hurley. He turned down. He turned down the offer. I believe it was 6 years, $70 million. So a big time offer. It's going back to UConn. What does that say about what's going on in LA, or what are your thoughts on that? Why you think, I know we can't speak for him, but what's going on? Why you think it was turned down?
I think it's a couple things. I think the first thing, the Lakers' job is not as an attractive job as people want to make it out to be. We all, love LeBron James, and he'll arguably be known as our greatest player ever played, but he's probably in his last year, maybe one more year left. Anthony Davis, injury-prone guy. They don't have a lot of draft picks. They don't have necessarily an infusion of young talent that's behind it. So it's not necessarily the greatest job. You're talking about a team that was in a play-in situation last year. Team that's always battling at the 8th, 9th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th seed. So it's not necessarily the greatest job in the world. And then you have very dominant personalities. You have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Those are very two hard individuals to coach when you're coming from the college ranks. I played for a coach who demanded a lot when he came in, Rick Pitino. And it's tough when you make that adjustment. You come from winning 80% of your games, and you come to a situation where the players' egos are in the play. Guys are making big money. They don't respond as the same as they do in college. You have to think about that. That's not a young group. The expectations is, for the Lakers, especially if LeBron and AD's on the team, is to make a deep run in the playoffs and have a chance to win a championship. And those are very dominant personalities in their locker room. And if you can't put your imprint on that team or on that organization the way you want to, why would you leave that when you're at UConn? It's your show. Everything goes through you. You're the one in control. It's your program. You get to recruit and put the players that you want on your team. I mean, it's just a different feel. So I can see why he did turn it down, even though the Lakers is a very tough job to turn down when you think about the tradition, the story, franchise, the opportunity to coach LeBron James, Anthony Davis. But sometimes, you got 2 championships, man. You're going for 3, and it's your show. It ain't about dollars and cents. He's making a very good salary at UConn. They're going to probably bump that up a little bit now because of the Lakers' offer. And your happiness is everything, man. You want to be happy. You get to the NBA, this is a stressful job. The demand is going to be really high, especially with LeBron and AD on the team. People are going to expect you to win right away. At UConn, you're already winning. You're already established. You're chasing history. You got an opportunity to win your 3rd NCAA title, a legit opportunity to do that. And that's tough to leave, man. Happiness is everything.
Do you also think it's difficult for college coaches to come in, especially like you said with that star level of players? You experienced it. It was your second year in Boston when Rick left
Yeah.
Kentucky and to Boston. I guess one of the probably the advantages you had familiarity with coach,
Mhm.
versus not. But I mean, is that even a tough transition for college coaches?
Without question, because now you're dealing with egos and money. It's not, you can't discipline a guy and say you suspended the game. It goes into fines, and you know, what I mean, it gets to the money situation of it. I mean, you got to deal with all these different personalities, these different things that guys are going on. It's a totally different animal because you're dealing with men. Um, and most of these men have to buy into your system. They have to believe and trust that you're going to do right by them. It's a different animal. And I saw Rick Pitino struggle with that because we changed players so much. If you look at his tenure in the 2.5 years, I played with probably 30, 40 players, man. With so many guys coming in and out their locker room, you couldn't build any team continuity. So those are tough transitions for great college coaches to come to pros and have to deal with guys' egos and those type of things. Is very difficult to do, and you're trying to establish yourself as a coach as well. But it's a players' league. Remember that the NBA is a players' league. So coaches have to be willing to adapt. They have to be willing to adjust. You have to earn the respects of players. It's a different game coming to the NBA.
Now, last question is, I mean, college landscape is changing now. These guys are, I mean, the players are getting paid now. Wish we were getting paid when we played, but they're getting paid now. NIL, collective. Is it as has it changed a little bit with the control that maybe the coaches have now versus what they previously had, due to the fact that if a player don't like, he can just leave now. There's no sitting out a year. There's no anything. He can go to 5 different schools throughout this time. Do you think the control has dwindled a little bit, where it's not just the coaches program? Players got a little more sway this time.
Oh, it's changed in a lot of areas. The money part, NIL. If you all you gotta do is look at the transfer portal. That speaks everything. What you've seen kids do over the last 2 years. How many kids we've had in the transfer portal? I think it's like 2,000 that was in there this past year. Kids, if they're not getting financially, they're not making any money. Two, if they're not getting any playing time, they know they can go somewhere else. And you got good players that now they can go to another school and make more money in NIL. You can take a mid-major guy who can say, well, if I'm at this mid-major, I can go to this major university and start and make another $500,000 before I even go pro. So it's a different game. It's a different landscape. Obviously, as an ex-player, you're happy for the players being able to make money off their image, name, and likeness. But it's different now. It's a tough game to coach. You got to go into homes now and offer money. You're not talking about education no more. I watch all these sports shows. You watch everything going on. We don't even talk about education no more. The first conversation is how much money can you get in the NIL space, or a school don't have enough NIL money to even recruit this type of kid. So it's totally different now. The game has changed. And like I said, it's a tough subject because as an ex-player, you're torn. You like the fact that players are able to make money off their image and likeness, but also for a coach, it's very difficult because now they can't be disciplinarians. They can't teach their kids how they want to teach them how to be winners. You got to first get the financial commitment out the way, then you can go into coaching. So it's a very difficult part right here. That's why you see guys like Dan Hurley. Those guys are interested now in leaving the college game and going pro because of this. This is why you see great coaches not want to finish their career out necessarily in the college space. You see it, Nick Saban retires now because he doesn't want to continue to deal with this NIL space. So it's a really big subject. They probably haven't did enough conversation about it. But it's affecting great coaches, great players' decisions on what they want to do. Everybody now is looking for their best self, the best situation for themselves and future for themselves. And it's not necessarily nothing wrong with that. But the educational part of it and recruiting guys to get a good education, to be successful, those things are out the window now. It's who got the most money.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. And I think it's tough on the mid majors too, because they'll develop a guy, and then once that guy becomes a star, balls out in the tournament, he's going to transfer to a Kentucky or
I
Arkansas.
mean, look at Kentucky right now. Look at the transfers that transferred into
Right.
Kentucky. I mean, those were mid-major guys that have played really, really well. They probably got an opportunity. I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure Kentucky probably was like, hey, you making $5 grand there, we can get that to 15 grand. You know what I mean? Just, it's just different. It's a different way of recruiting. Like I said, you're happy for the players to be able to make money, but it takes away from, coaches being able to coach and develop. It's just not going to be that. You gotta do the money part first, then the development part comes after that.
That's right. Again, big fella, another good one. Thanks for all the insight. We're going to see you next time. No 4 pointers.